All right, welcome to our first episode of Two Generations, One Mic. I'm your host, Ben. Just a little bit about us here and why we're doing this. I am currently a master's student at NYU, getting my master's in sports business. So I thought it'd be fun if this is my co-host and dad, Pat. If we started this podcast about how the two different generations view what's currently going on in sports. So we thought it'd be fun to do this as I try and get going in my sports career. So, yeah, Pat, is there anything you want to add?
Ben, I'm so excited to be doing this with you. This is just awesome. I love that you came up with this idea. I'm happy to do it. Thrilled to do it, actually. Something that you and I have always bonded over is sports. At the breakfast table every morning, we would talk about whatever happened the night before you went off to college. And by doing this, of course, I'm representing the older generation, 70s, 80s, and 90s sports is kind of what I steer towards from an angle of Ben and I talking, sometimes even debating about whatever the subject might be. And I always kind of think that it would be fun. What I'm going to be doing is each week wearing some type of throwback jersey. So today we've got a classic Eric Lindros jersey, which is really funny. When I sat down with it, Ben goes, "Nope, don't know who he is." So quick little recap for you. Lindros was actually the number one overall draft pick in 1991 by the Quebec Nordiques. Side note, I think is one of the coolest sports logos ever.
Yeah.
Never actually played for them. He came out just before the draft and said, if the Nordiques draft me, I am not going to play for them. They drafted him. He did not. So he didn't actually play in 91. Fast forward to the draft. He played for an unaffiliated NHL team and actually did play in the Olympics that year and won a silver medal for Canada. Fast forward to the 92 draft. Nordiques, through a number of different things going on, work a trade with the Philadelphia Flyers. That's where he spent the majority of his time. So started playing for the Flyers in 92. Did go to a Stanley Cup Finals once in his career. And I think then later in his career was traded a few times, Rangers, Leafs, and I forget the other team. Anyway, and retired in 07. So there you go. Little history for those of the newer generation. So we'll do that each week.
Yeah. So he was kind of like the Eli Manning of the NHL.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. We will start it off here. So more betting scandal action. So we have the two Guardians pitchers threw balls on the first pitch of the inning. So their associates could make some serious money on that bet. They each got paid $12,000, but are now facing up to 60 years in prison. Doesn't really seem worth it if you ask me. What do you think about it?
Well, it's crazy, Ben. It's Emmanuel. Is it Class A? Is that how you pronounce it?
I
It's
think so.
spelled Clase,
Yeah.
and Luis Ortiz. So Ortiz, I think, really only had two pitches that were flagged as suspicious betting,
Mm-hmm.
and and so the bettors on those two pitches won, I believe, approximately $50,000. It's Class A, or however you pronounce his name. Those bettors won big money. I think they won approximately $400,000 over the course of the 2 years that he did it. And he was paid, of course, a stipend from whoever was organizing the thing. I
Mm-hmm.
would agree with you. Both of them had multi-million-dollar contracts. Why you would do it for $12,000 each, or whatever the amount is, that's a
Yeah.
fraction of what your actual salary is. And now you've got to deal with this. Of course, it's innocent until proven guilty in
Mm-hmm.
this country, and we will see what ends up happening. But yeah, it seems to me that that would be quite. I don't know why you would do it. I just don't know why you would do it.
Yeah, I don't either, and it's going to be really interesting. So I had my sports law class last night, and I was talking to my professor about it, and the future of the prop bet will be very interesting
Yes,
because
I would agree.
sports betting is not going to go anywhere. The leagues
Yep.
are making too much from it with their partnerships with DraftKings and FanDuel and whatnot. Not going to go anywhere, but the future of if you can bet on player specific stuff, it'll be interesting to see because now it's affecting all sports.
Right. Right. I
Yeah.
agree. And Ben, in looking and reading a little bit about this, so on the two Ortiz pitches, and
Hmm.
it's crazy that they're able to just zero it in on the two pitches that were last year, or I believe it was last year, whatever. And they are able to do a bet on a ball or a strike if the pitch is going to be a strike or a ball slash hit batsman
Yeah.
or miles per hour and above or below a certain targeted miles per hour. And in his two pitches that were in question, there were multiple bets placed for $13,000, which
Wow.
obviously is a large amount of money. After this, soon after all of this started coming out, they, with the MLB and their betting partners and the ones that wanted to keep the individual pitch prop bets opportunity, they
Hmm.
lowered the max amount to $200. That's a massive swing from, I don't know if there was a maximum, but people were betting $13,000. So to
Yeah.
jump it all the way down to $200, I think that's going to be a big help because I think those prop bets in various sports, whether it be down to a certain play or a certain type of throw or a certain result per play, I think can be really kind of fun sometimes. And
Yeah.
so I hope they don't completely get rid of them, but I don't have a problem with them lowering it down to that amount because for someone like me that is sitting with a group of buddies and we're like, oh, let's do, throw $5 on something like
Yeah.
that. It just makes it interesting if you're in the middle of a boring game, like the Bronco Raider game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. So very interesting what's legally going to happen there. Kind of the big news of baseball. Up next, so a lot of NFL chaos this week, both on and off the field. Giants fire Brian Dable, kind of the big news from the coaching circus. Um, they named their OC the interim head coach, but I can't see that being the long term move. So it'll be interesting what they do. A couple names I picked out. So Cliff Kingsbury, offensive coordinator for the Commanders. Obviously, the Commanders haven't been great this year, but what he did with Jaden Daniels last year as a young quarterback could do the same thing for Jackson Dart. Um, Clint Kubiak, OC for the Seahawks. Seahawks offense has obviously been incredible. And then a name I really like, Brian Flores, DC for the Vikings. What he's done with the Vikings defense from a scheme standpoint, because the Vikings have a good defense. I wouldn't say it's the most talented defense in the league, but what he does with their scheme and makes them one of the best defenses, I think it's incredible. And the Giants obviously have a great defensive line, so what he could do with them, I think that'd be really interesting. And then a fun name, probably not going to happen, but Lane Kiffin, reunite him with Jackson Dart. I think that would be cool, but I couldn't see him making an NFL comeback. Do you have any candidates you like?
No, I think you just rattled through all of them. Kubiak, is he Gary Kubiak's son?
That I don't know.
Because here you go for for my generation, we all remember Gary Kubiak as, backup quarterback. Started for a few years whenever, whatever team he was on, whenever the starter got hurt. I don't think he was ever like a full-time starter for multiple seasons or anything like that, but was a perennial backup. He would be in one of those Prudential commercials right now where they call in the backup for the family photo. But I think all of those guys would be good. I, as a Vikings fan, would hate to lose Brian Flores, but that's how it, because I think he's fantastic. What he did last year with the Vikings defense and is piecing it together this year, I don't think they quite have the pieces like they did last year, but still is a scheme. The way he schemes that defense is unbelievable. So I think they're all decent choices. I, like you, think it would be crazy to have Lane Kiffin reunited with Jackson Dart. That would be awesome. But I agree with you. I think the Raiders, the Raiders stint that he had went so poorly. I would be very, very surprised if we ever saw him come back to the NFL, at least while he's in his kind of the age generation where he is and is having such a huge run in the college game. And there's so much money coming into the college game. I don't know if there's going to be that much more of a difference in salary that would draw him to the NFL.
Yeah, and we were saying when we were talking earlier, whether it's an extension with Ole Miss or leaving for either the Florida or LSU job, he'll probably become the highest paid coach in college football. I would bet 12 to 15 million per year, somewhere in that range. You don't see many, if any, NFL coaches making that. So you have to think he stays in the college game.
I would totally agree. Let me ask you a question, Ben. Are you surprised at how the coaching carousel of college has quieted down? We had that quick run where, Penn State, LSU, we had that run about, I don't know, what is it, a month ago, where they all quickly jettisoned their coaches. And then you heard about Matt Rule, you heard about Indiana Cignetti and whatnot. And they quickly locked them up with extensions to stay at Nebraska and at Indiana. And of course, Lane Kiffin's name was being floated. Now everything's just quiet. What do you think is the cause of that? Is everyone just running out their season and then deal with it? Why is it all of a sudden gone from a lot of chatter to zero?
I have to think it's because we're well over halfway into the season. I mean, nothing's really going to change by firing your coach at this point. Why not wait till the end of the season? Don't you think that's what it has to be?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that teams are just trying to get to the end of the season. I would bet there's some chatter behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. You would think, though, that if that is the case, some of the talking heads would be bringing whatever that chatter is forward because they have all of their channels able to get that information. And we just haven't heard anything. I don't hear anything when I'm watching the various news channels, sports news channels that I watch. It's kind of quiet. It's kind of interesting.
No, it is interesting for sure. But
yeah,
you have to think after the season, there will be a couple more open spots.
I agree.
All right, little NFL chaos from this past weekend. It was a weird weekend. I felt like we were in the Twilight Zone. I mean, the Bills get blown out by the Dolphins. The Panthers fall to the Saints. The Chargers blew out the Steelers.
Yeah.
It
was nuts.
On just how much went on to shake things up, but
it just is kind of a little tidbit on how the NFL is so Jekyll and Hyde. where
Mm-hmm.
the Panthers the week before go into Green Bay and beat Green Bay, how the Bills beat the Chiefs, and then
Yeah.
both of them come out just totally dead. I understand in college when you have letdown games, after big games, the next week, can be a letdown game after you get so amped up. But you're talking about essentially 18 to 22-year-olds
Mm-hmm.
who can be very emotional and that sort of thing. Here you're talking about professionals, and everything is very regimented throughout an NFL week. At least that's what you always hear about, that they're all about schedule and keeping everything the same and everything like that. And so it always surprises me when you have more more mature players who are seasoned in the league go from a performance like those in one week and then the same in the next week where it's just a terrible result. I find it very fascinating on how that happens.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And for the listeners out there, I'm a Panthers fan. Pat's a Vikings fan. Um, the Panthers with the Bucks lost to the Patriots. If they had won the game against the Saints, they would have only been half a game out from first place in the NFC South. So that was pretty disheartening. I don't know how we lost to the Saints. Passing offense just couldn't get it done. So very disappointing. Um, Unfortunately, your Vikings lost to the Ravens, and with the Steelers' loss, after the Ravens started the season, what was it, 2-5? They're now a
Yep.
game out of first in the AFC North, and they definitely have the easier schedule going forward. So if they do manage to come in first in the AFC North, that's going to be one of the craziest comebacks I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would totally agree, and I think it's interesting how the um, the experts have had the Ravens as the favorite to win the AFC North, even when they were 2-5 and in essentially last place or close to last place in that division. They were the favorite, the betting favorite to ultimately win that division, and now
Mhm.
it here it comes. And so those that division is pretty brutal. So it was a weird week, just exactly how you said. I mean, the Steelers now have had a couple of performances where you can tell there is not much juice within that team. I don't know if it's Aaron Rodgers, which I would assume it is. Having cheered against Aaron Rodgers for decades, it doesn't bother me in the least to see it happening. But it's going to be interesting to see how that league and those teams, you've got the Bengals trying to figure out what the heck is going to happen with them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean the Steelers had they've this summer they put gosh, close to $100 million into that defense and they have been horrible. Like I saw during the Chargers Steelers game that they're rolling with almost a complete backup offensive line right now, and PFF grades players by position, and every one of their offensive linemen that started that game were in like the bottom two of their position. So just a horrible offensive line. And the Steelers pass rush, I mean, you have TJ Watt and company. They're supposed to be a great defensive line. So, yeah, it seems like the Ravens are definitely on the upswing. Steelers are on the downswing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to one show the other day and they were questioning whether the Bills have missed their window in relation to maximizing the results of the players that they have. And
mhm.
they've had about a 5-year run here where they've owned the AFC East. And the question raised was, have they missed their Super Bowl window? And a couple of the guys were arguing that they had, because here come the Patriots and Drake May and uh, oh, I'm blanking on head coach Mike.
Oh, Vrabel.
Yeah, and yeah, he's got that team just working like a solid unit.
Yep.
And is the Bills are the Bills in deep trouble, not just on this season, but like for the foreseeable future here, in terms of at least being much more competitive within the division and having people biting at their heels, which I would argue that they are.
I would say they are in trouble, but as long as you have Josh Allen, you're a Super Bowl contender.
I would agree. I would agree totally. It's
I mean,
just not going to be as easy to get there as the last 5 years have been.
correct. Yeah, the last 5 years, I mean, they have just ran through the AFC East.
Yep.
But now it's definitely always going to be a fight with the Patriots. Um, Even though they lost to the Dolphins, you don't have to worry about the Dolphins. They have some serious work to do on their roster, front office this summer. They'll be out of it for a while. Quarterback issues. Yeah, but no, Drake May and the Patriots have looked amazing all season.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's interesting you say that about the Dolphins, though. They looked like a top tier team last week. Tua and Waddle were connecting all over the place. Their running back ran all over the Bills. It was
yeah,
great. I mean, I don't really have a dog in that fight, so it was kind of fun to watch.
yeah, no, but just talking from a future standpoint, we've talked. It's been known that I think Tua and Mike McDaniel have both lost the locker room a little bit. So, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get that back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if we're talking future here, I'm definitely taking the Patriots and Bills over the Dolphins for AFC East.
For sure.
Getting into a little college quarterback talk. So the other day I was listening to Todd McShay's podcast, great podcast. He obviously has connections to scouts and front office executives that we don't have. So it's interesting to hear him talk about what he's hearing. He said that with NIL right now, there are probably not going to be many high-level quarterbacks in this draft. That one scout told him Dante Moore, he's a lock to come back to Oregon. Ty Simpson, Lenore Sellers, probably both returning to college. So it kind of looks like Mendoza's going to be the only high-level quarterback that's going to be in this draft class. Um, if you're a quarterback like Ty Simpson or Dante Moore, and you're probably going to go top 10, I mean, would you take it, or do you go back to try and get even better in college?
Oh, I think you have to look at your. I think that as a quarterback, it would be my opinion that you need to look at yourself in the mirror and go, really, truly, how do I stack up against these guys? So if you're Mendoza and you're looking at the Simpsons, the Moores, and these other guys that are in the closed circles or whatever, however that information is getting out, that it comes out that they're most likely sellers that are going back to school, and suddenly you're the only quarterback or the highest level of a very small group of quarterbacks that are coming out, and you're far above the other ones. I
Yeah.
think you grab it and go. I think in that particular situation, I get why those guys are going back. You know, they're performing at such a high level, and there's 3 or 4 of them, and they know they're all going to be competing against each other for their foreseeable NFL futures, and competing, even starting within the NFL draft, competing for draft position. So they're going to go back, hone their skills even more. If you're sitting there and you're like, you know what, I'm going to jump and go. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that that's great. I would go if I were Mendoza, for sure.
Sorry, if you're like a Dante Moore or Ty Simpson, might not be the number one pick, but still top 10.
Oh, I think I'm with you. If I look at it two different ways for those two different types of guys. I mean, that Simpson and Moore are, very high level performers and want to hone their skills even more. If I'm them, I'm going back. You're going to get paid the same, if not even more than you would get on your rookie deal. You're going to improve your draft status even more. If I were them, I'd go back. And then if I were kind of that just below type quarterback guy, and all of a sudden these top guys peel off and go back, then so you're looking at each one, and you really have to kind of look at yourself on where you stack up. And if you suddenly have an opportunity where if you were in a class with all these guys and you'd be the fourth or fifth quarterback picked, and all those guys go back, and you jump up, grab it and go. And these guys, I do get why they would go back.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard though, because let's say you're Dante Moore, and in this draft class, the only quarterbacks you might be competing against for draft position are Mendoza and Ty Simpson. Those are likely to be the top three right now if they were all to enter. But let's say you delay it till 2027. Now you toss Julian Sayin, Arch Manning, Marcel Reed into the mix, as well as Ty Simpson, who could go back, and Lenoris Sellers.
Yep.
It becomes a lot more competitive, and if you don't have a great senior season at Oregon, that could really drop you down to the second or third round.
That's a great point, Ben. I mean, I'm glad it's not me trying to make this decision about myself, or as your dad trying to figure it out with you. And that's been the rub or the question as what you do for forever. I mean, granted, the NIL thing changes it a little bit because it makes it much more palatable to go back, because now you're getting a massive amount of money. What they used to do, the only real option they had was taking out an insurance policy on yourself to help in case of injury that knocked you out and you were not able to continue your career. That was basically the only thing you had to fall back on. Now you've got all the NIL money, and that changes everything significantly, if you ask me. So that's a great point when you're sitting there trying to figure out where you might go. And yeah, I was saying Mendoza in my argument. Maybe it's Moore, maybe it's whomever. That is a tough deal.
Yeah, and
then you also look at, like you were saying, look at the teams that would be drafting in, so who's it going to be? Saints and
Jets.
Yeah. I mean, are those teams that so you're going to, if you're Moore and you stay and everyone else falls back out and goes back to school, is that where you want to go?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And yeah, looking at it from the NIL standpoint, yeah, you can go back next year and get, let's just call it $10 million for fun next year. Probably not even that high, $5 million.
It's insane, by the way.
Yeah, but you could have gone, let's say, number 5 this year, whereas next year you could fall to the second round. I mean, a 4-year contract as the number 5 overall pick versus the 35th overall pick, that plays a big effect on your future finances. So it's very risk reward.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that kind of a more interesting thing is NIL as a whole, and paying college players at first, having come through decades when I was young and getting into being a significant sports fan, and then through college and obviously watching sports, and as getting into adulthood, at first I didn't understand it or believe in it or whatever word you want to use. Call me old school, call me whatever. For all the decades that I watched colleges build players, and they were at the same school for 4 years. You really got to know them. You got to watch the teams grow together and everything like that. Then more in basketball, you had the one and done situations start to come up with Calipari at Kentucky, and some of the other coaches didn't want to necessarily embrace that. Krzyzewski at Duke kind of took him a minute to get on board and then realized that's the way it's going to be. And then, and I was bummed when that started to happen, but then just kind of figured it out on how to be a sports fan for those types of teams. And I will say, then when the NIL stuff started, I was like, oh my gosh, this is tough for an old school guy.
Yeah.
And I know I know people are going to argue the players at colleges were bringing in millions of dollars for the schools and getting nothing. I get it. I'm old school. It is what it is. I have actually now come to really appreciate and embrace it, because if you look at these last few weeks of college football, for instance, we have some great regular season games still to go over these next couple weeks before the championship games. And so I've actually come to be like, you know what? Whatever. Great. The players are going to all shift teams, during the off time in the portal and all that, which is just like free agency for the professional sports. And, a new player comes in and then you cheer for your team in that situation. It's all the way back to the Seinfeld episode years and years ago where Jerry said, you know what we're cheering for? We're cheering for laundry. He said, it doesn't matter who's in your jersey. You're cheering for the jerseys that are on your field, and it's your team. I'll never forget when Jerry said that. It was awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry to divert there.
No, it's all good. Looking at, so there's a lot of talk on the internet right now, the Penn State and Indiana ending. So the last play, incredible catch, pass from Mendoza, receiver gets 1 foot down in the back of the end zone. One of the greatest game-winning catches I've ever seen. A lot of debate going on about the Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt call, specifically Gus Johnson. What did you think about the call?
I totally agree with you, first of all, that the play, the situation, the season made it all very exciting. You have Penn State, who started the year ranked number 2 in the country and obviously has had a disaster of a season. I really don't think there's any other word for it. Obviously, we just talked about James Franklin fired however many weeks it was into the season, and the season there, Adler goes down for the year. Just awful. I feel terrible for him.
Yeah.
Not just as a sports fan. Penn State is one of those teams that you want to see good. Indiana, of course, having a dream season, undefeated. What are they? Number 2 in the country behind Ohio State.
Yep.
They're in Happy Valley, losing. I forget how much time was left, Ben. It was under 2 minutes. I can't remember if it was inside of a minute. Doesn't matter.
Somewhere around a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. And unbelievable play, situation, pass, very back of the end zone. If you haven't seen it, it's worth going out and looking at it. I mean, it's unbelievable that the player was able to get one toe in and almost stepped out with that forward toe, and it just sweeps above the grass and the back toe goes down. It's unbelievable. I think Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt are wonderful for college football. I am going to be their fans forever. You know what you're getting with Gus Johnson. He makes calls super exciting. He almost lost his voice in calling that play. So
Yeah.
ultimately, I'm sorry for the long description here. I'm ultimately going to answer your question where I love it. I love Gus Johnson's calls. I love Joe Klatt's analysis. I love how excited Klatt got because he doesn't usually go super crazy. I mean, he's a pretty good, barometer to Gus, bringing him down a little bit, and it's awesome. I'm all for them. I'm all for bringing the excitement. They make you feel like you're there, and that is
Mhm.
the goal, in my opinion. That is the goal of TV play-by-play and analysts. They try to bring good ones. I think bring the excitement through the television or through your viewing platform.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. My thoughts, I totally agree with that. Love Gus Johnson. I think part of his issue is he set like such a high bar for himself because he's had so many great calls over the years. Um, I don't think it was his best call ever. He might have gotten a little too like carried away and crazy for me, but I agree. I do love the energy he brings. Yeah, it is just really interesting to see how divided the internet is by this one.
I would agree with you. I was actually very surprised because, as you said, it was probably the most excited I've ever heard Gus get in
Hmm.
a call, but it's nothing new.
No,
If you
not
go
at all.
there are if you go on YouTube, there are 10-minute videos that people have put together of all of the great Gus Johnson calls, and they're all like that. Yes, this was probably the highest. I mean, his voice was just out of this world.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. And yeah, you and I have talked in the past about when we've been putting together what we want to do. If there's a slow sports week, one thing Ben and I have talked about doing is doing like a top 5 or a top 10 greatest calls of all time. And in looking at it and thinking about it, the two of us were batting it around the other day, and we might have to break it down by sport. I don't know if we're going to be able to get the top 10 greatest calls of encompassing every sport as one ranking. That
Yeah.
might be doing a disservice to the good calls that are out there.
Yeah, just because, I mean, you have so many in college football, college basketball, NFL, NBA, MLB. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Um, so shifting over to the NBA for a little bit, I feel like one of the biggest stories right now is Ja Morant. If you haven't followed this one super closely, um, the Grizzlies have a new coach this season. Uh, Sources are saying that him and Ja Morant have kind of got into it behind the scenes. Ja Morant hasn't been in team huddles, got suspended for a game for that. Um, Looks like he isn't really trying out on the floor. A little bit like the Jimmy Butler situation last year in Miami. So, with your old school approach, if Ja Morant officially requests a trade and wants to get out, keeps um, having a lack
Tank.
of effort on the court, are you trading for him?
I would call it self sabotage. Um,
Yeah.
is what he's doing. So Ben's smiling because he knows exactly my thoughts. I'm a huge team guy. I used to coach all of Ben's youth athletic teams up until he then got into the junior high and high school level of playing. But I was a big rah guy. Get the team together. Everyone's going to participate. Everyone's going to participate at full level of their ability.
Hmm.
Understanding that some are better than others, but you always give 100%. I do not understand the not try. I just don't understand not trying. I don't understand not trying in anything you do. It's just not in it's not in my DNA. I just don't understand it. So, to Ben's question, if I'm a GM looking to potentially acquire a top player like John Morant, and that's his method of getting out of his current situation, obviously, I've never been a professional athlete of any sort. And so I don't know how exactly it works, in terms of trying to get in and out of certain situations that you just absolutely can't stand. But as a GM, I would have a hard time choosing a person that uses that method to move on. I don't think it's good for the player, him or herself, on the court or on the playing field or whatever it might be. I think it's terrible for a locker room. And so you're going to sabotage, ultimately, you're self-sabotaging your performance on the field or the court, again, whatever. And that's going to lead to then making the locker room a complete disaster. I don't need it.
Yeah.
So how about you?
I mean, I think it depends. If I were a GM, I would obviously of a different team. And the Grizzlies are fielding calls for John Morant. I think a player of that talent, I think you have to at least call and see what it would take. Because John Morant, if he tries his best, completely healthy, those have been his biggest two questions in his career. He is one of the most talented players in the league. So if you're able to get him for 60 cents on the dollar, he's so talented, you might have to do it, especially if your team's in a position to win. Like for the example I wrote down here for this conversation. So if you remember, what was that, 3 years ago now, when Kyrie Irving was in Brooklyn, his
Yep.
wasn't a lack of effort, but it was the vaccination stuff
Oh, yep,
where
yep.
he was being like held out of games and that. So the Nets just needed to get him out of there and get something for him. So the package they got was Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, two starting caliber players, but not all stars by any means, a first and 2 seconds. And this was a 29-year-old Kyrie Irving, prime of his career. Even though the Nets were unsuccessful, he was awesome. So definitely not what Kyrie Irving was worth. And then the year they traded for him, Dallas made the finals.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
you're taking a risk by bringing someone like Kyrie Irving in, but it works out for them. And
Yep.
he's been great in Dallas until he tore his ACL last March.
Yep.
So if you can get him for below what he's worth, buy low on him, you're taking a big risk for your locker room, but could be a good move.
No, you're right. I mean, and my reason is emotion. Your reason is, stat, and that is equally important. And so I get it. It's a tough decision. I don't know. I'm such a again, having never been in a professional team's locker room, WNBA, NBA, NFL, whatever. I don't know if it's like I'm assuming it's not like a high school locker room back when we all just, I mean, you were in one, back at your high school. I mean, it's a ton of fun. You're all buddies and getting along. I would assume it's not like that. So maybe I'm putting too much into the emotion every one for all and all for one type thing. Maybe I'm doing that, but boy, God, that would be tough because it's just not in my DNA to not give 100%. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. And I will say, I kind of blame this on the NBA a little bit because if you remember a couple years ago in the CBA, they started trying to reward players more by signing extensions and sticking with their own teams so they didn't have any more like Kevin Durant to the Golden State Warriors situation where players are just up and leaving. So they thought if you could have them sign extensions that are worth more than what they would get in free agency, they would just stick with their team forever. Well, Ja Morant did sign his extension, 5 year, 200, whatever it was. He's always going to take that money, but if things completely during that extension deteriorate between him and the front office, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is very interesting and to see if someone does want to take him on because he's obviously had his off the court issues too. But I don't know. If I'm the Miami Heat, I'm making the phone call to at least hear about it. The
Totally.
Heat have been one of the most surprising teams this season. Um, the East is wide open, I would say, besides the Knicks. No one else has really stuck out so far. And if you can get him for a package of Tyler Hero, one of their young guys, in a first, that immediately puts the Heat as a top 3 team in the East.
By them acquiring Morant
Yes.
and giving up what you just said.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
obviously Hero's great, but they signed Norman Powell this summer, who pretty much does the exact same thing as Tyler Hero. Score first, shooter. He's been great for them, and he's obviously not as worth as much in a trade package. So, I mean, if you can get Ja Morant for 60 cents on the dollar and put him with Bam and Powell and Ware and a couple of the other young guys they have, I think that propels them to possibly an Eastern Conference final contender.
Totally. And where my rub comes is, okay, so things have started to not go Ja Morant's way at Memphis, and so this is what he does instead of fighting through it, talking to people. I don't know how exactly that works, but so you trade for him, things are good for weeks, months, maybe a couple of years, however long his extension is, whatever. But if things go down for a minute, obviously winning cures everything. It always does. It always has in professional sports. Winning makes everybody happy and everybody get along. Always has. So you're going to also have some losses down in there where, like a long string. So, I mean, it's not always perfect. Everything's always moving around.
Yep.
So then how long till he does this for my team? That's my hard thing to try to get my head around.
Yeah.
As a GM.
I will say, though, and even looking at it from a head coach standpoint, you have Memphis, who, let's say they've played 10 games. I mean, that means this guy, he's a new guy. He's only been coach for 10 games. But the Heat, you have Eric Spoelstra, who's seen it, who's seen everything in 14 years. I think that's how long he's coached, 2011.
That's crazy.
So I think he'd be more equipped to deal with that because he had all the LeBron and Dwayne Wade stuff. The Heat were bad for a while. Jimmy Butler.
Yep. No, you're right.
I think he could handle it better.
I would say that this is a particular subject. So the fun part is this is one where you and I are. We're not arguing staunchly against each other, which sometime we'll have a subject like that, and that'll be really kind of fun to go through.
Mm-hmm.
whenever we have that, whatever that subject might be in the future. I mean, this one, we're both kind of like this. We're not like total opposite. We're just kind of like this, where you could swing me. Let's say I was the owner and you're the GM, and you come in and I feel the way I feel
Mm-hmm.
right now, and you come in and start discussing this the way that you're arguing it. I could ultimately see myself in the end going, all right, let's you make the call. Let's see what the trade offer is, or what they want back,
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. You could talk me into it. You could talk me into it.
Yeah. No, but I mean, hasn't officially requested a trade yet.
Which is wild.
Yeah. So we'll see where this shakes out. It'll be interesting to watch because the
Yeah.
Grizzlies also haven't won many games this season. So
Right.
if they just
Right.
end up blowing it up. Um, yeah, and then for our last segment here, we decided it'd be fun if in our family, Would You Rather was always a fun game. So we're always going to end it with a non-related sports topic, this or that. So our topic for this week is best dinner side.
Okay. Are you going first or am I?
You are.
Okay. My best dinner side, I'm going to say, is French fries for
Yep.
sure, 100%. And Ben's laughing because it always has since he was little.
Hmm.
I love a French fry. I think it goes with just about anything. I've had French fries as a side to chicken, steak, fish, whatever. I love putting a French fry as a side. If I have if someone offered to let me choose what type of French fry, it would be a thick cut steak fry. Um, but I'm not choosy. I can do just about anything. If they're shoestring fries, no problem. I'll figure out how to have those.
Yeah. I assumed you would pick that, and it's hard to argue with that because they do go with just about any dinner you could have.
Yep.
For me though, if because I do pick French fries a lot, but choosing like what I like the best flavor wise, like I have it and it's like, oh man, this is good. I'd say like a good quality restaurant mac and cheese,
Oh, yeah.
like a steakhouse style mac and cheese. I mean, that is
Like the baked top.
yeah, just really good quality. Um, yeah, I if you can give me a good mac and cheese, that's a tough one to beat.
Ben, as a little boy, has always liked mac and cheese. And I will say, yes, good steakhouse, thick noodles, the baked crust over,
Hmm.
the container of the mac and cheese is really good. But I remember back in the day when you were little and we'd make you just the good old mac and cheese in the microwave where you add water to the powdered cheese,
Kraft.
dump it out. There's Kraft, there's Velveeta, whatever. I made sure to always have a bite or two of that from you, and you would scarf it all down, but I would always make sure to have a bite of that too.
Yeah.
That's good. That's fun. I love that segment, Ben.
Very fun. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to our first episode. Hopefully, you follow us along the way here as we try and get this thing going. And yeah, that's it.
Ben,
Episode one.
this was awesome. I love you.
Love you too.
All
See you
right.
next week.
Bye, everybody.